It all happened on November 6th, 2021, a day I'll never forget. I wasn't supposed to live past that morning. One moment, I was standing in my kitchen making coffee, humming a worship song softly. The next, darkness. A sharp pain shot through my chest like lightning splitting a tree. I couldn't breathe. My legs gave out. I heard the mug shatter on the floor and smelled fresh coffee spreading across the tiles. Then nothing, no breath, no heartbeat, no life. I died. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't really in my body anymore. I was somewhere else. Somewhere so real and full of light and love that even now, years later, I can't find words strong enough to describe it. I have to try, though, because what I saw didn't just change my life, it woke me up. Not just from death, but from being asleep in life. From judging people too quickly, from thinking I knew who was in and who was out, from living for comfort instead of purpose. What I experienced proved something beyond doubt. Heaven is real, hell is real, and Jesus isn't waiting until the end of your life to decide if you're good enough. He's calling you now to come closer, love deeper, forgive faster. Time here is short, but eternity is longer than we can imagine. Let me tell you what happened, not to impress, but because someone needs to hear this today. Maybe it's you. My name is 𝚌𝚑𝚊𝚗𝚗𝚒. I'm 54 years old and have lived most of my life in a small town outside Nashville, Tennessee. Quiet streets, church on Sundays, casseroles after funerals, you know the kind of place. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents prayed with me every night, and we read the Bible together. I accepted Jesus when I was 8 years old, right there in the front row of our little country church during a revival service. I meant it then, and I still do. But over the years, something shifted, not my faith. I still believed, but my heart. It got hard in places I didn't notice until it was too late. Life wore me down: divorce, loneliness, a son who walked away from God and ignored my calls, working 2 jobs to keep the lights on, watching friends pass away. Burdens piled up like unpaid bills. Slowly, without realizing it, I treated my relationship with God like a routine. I prayed the same prayers, sang the same songs, went through the motions. I judged people more than I loved them. I thought I knew who was saved and who wasn't. I looked at others and thought, if only they repented like I did. If only they lived right. I didn't say it out loud, but I felt it. There was a woman at church named Maggie. She used to drink too much. She showed up late sometimes, smelling like wine, her clothes wrinkled. She talked too loud, and people whispered about her. I did, too. I told myself I was concerned for her soul, but really, I didn't want her sitting near me during worship. I didn't invite her over, avoided her hugs. Another man, James, left his wife for another woman and stayed away for 10 years. When he finally came back, broken and ashamed, begging for forgiveness. I thought, too late. You had your chance. We welcomed him back, sure, but I kept my distance. I didn't trust he could truly change. Then there was my neighbor Linda, an atheist who joked about religion and said heaven sounded boring. She called prayer talking to the ceiling. I tried to share Jesus with her once, but she laughed and said, "You do your thing, Arena. I'll enjoy life while I can." After that, I stopped trying. Why waste breath on someone who doesn't care? That was me, religious, devoted, attending every service, giving to missions, leading women's Bible study. But inside, I was growing cold. I didn't realize how far I drifted until the moment I died. When I crossed over and stood in the presence of holiness, I realized something terrifying. I had been wrong about almost everything. The person I saw in heaven wasn't Maggie, James, or Linda. It was someone I hadn't thought about in 20 years, someone I had written off and judged harshly. But God had forgiven him. Seeing him there broke me. 1 second I was alive, the next I wasn't. The pain in my chest exploded, and I fell. I reached for the counter, trying to hold on, but my fingers slipped. Then darkness, silence, and then light. Not sunlight or a lamp, but something pure and alive, like the light itself was breathing. Suddenly, I was above, looking down. There I was, lying on the kitchen floor, one leg twisted, eyes open but unseeing. Coffee soaked into my robe's hem. A paramedic knelt beside me, pressing on my chest. Another shouted numbers into a radio. I floated, watching. At first, I thought I was dreaming or passed out, but everything was too clear, colors too rich. The air felt like peace, like being wrapped in something warm and safe. I looked at my body and felt no connection, like seeing a coat I'd taken off. "Is this death?" I whispered. No answer, but I knew I was dead. Yet, I was more awake than ever. The room faded, walls melted like mist, sirens and voices grew distant and silent. Then I started moving, not walking or flying, just drawn forward by something powerful and gentle, like a child to her mother's arms. I didn't fear it, I longed for it. Every part of me wanted to be inside that light, to dissolve into it. As I moved forward, I noticed other beings. They weren't human, not exactly, but not scary. They were holy, tall, radiant, clothed in something shimmering like water in sunlight. Their faces I can't describe, not because I didn't see them, but because my mind can't hold what I saw. It was too beautiful, too pure. One looked at me. Just a glance, but in it was love, perfect, unconditional love, like being seen for the first time. All my secrets, sins, and shame, and still, love. I wanted to cry but couldn't. No tears there, only joy and peace. They didn't speak, but I understood. you are safe. You are known. You are love. Then a voice came, not loud or booming, but soft and clear like a bell ringing deep inside my soul. "Arena," it said. I froze, not afraid but stunned. The voice was familiar, deeper than memory, warmer than firelight, stronger than mountains. I knew it even before I saw him. As I moved closer, the light grew brighter. The light was bright, but didn't hurt my eyes. Instead, it filled me and cleansed me. I felt things I couldn't explain, like every lie I'd believed was washing away. Every old wound, every angry word, every jealous or proud thought came up, not to punish me, but to be seen, known, and released. I wasn't judged, just understood. And in that knowing, I felt clean. Angels surrounded me, not crowding but guiding and protecting. One walked ahead, parting the light like a curtain. Then I saw a city not like any city on earth. It was quiet, clean, and free of fear. It shimmered with gold and crystal, but it wasn't made of ordinary materials. It was light-shaped into buildings. Towers glowed softly with colors like a sunrise. Gates were open wide, with no locks or guards. Music floated in the air, not from instruments but from the very atmosphere, full of joy and worship. People walked, laughed, hugged, danced, and knelt. Everyone was whole, no sickness, no pain, no age, just complete and glorified. I saw a little girl twirling in sparkling flowers, an old man playing with a dog, a couple smiling at each other like they just met. Everyone was moving toward a glowing throne in the center, too bright to see clearly, but I felt its power and love like gravity. This was heaven, real, more real than anything I knew, and I was going there, going home. But then the pull slowed, and the angels paused. One looked at me with sorrow and said without words, "You cannot stay." I cried out, begging not to go back, but the answer was gentle and firm, "Your work isn't finished." I fought it, saying I'd lived and served enough, but the truth hit me hard: you haven't loved enough. Not preached enough or been religious enough, but truly loved enough. I thought about how I had held back love from Maggie, James, Linda, my son, strangers, even enemies. I had judged who deserved grace, forgetting grace is a gift, not earned. The light dimmed and the city faded. Then he appeared, Jesus. Not just a figure or idea, but real. His eyes were deep and kind, seeing every secret and tear I'd hidden. He smiled, welcoming me home, not judging. I wanted to tell him all I'd done for him, but he already knew. Then he showed me something that broke my heart: a crowd near a garden laughing and singing. Among them was my brother Trevor, who died young, broken by drugs and rebellion. I'd thought he was lost, but there he was, whole and joyful, with our Father, who had never forgiven him on earth. They hugged, free of guilt and pain. I asked Jesus how this could be. He said Trevor called out to him in his last breath, whispering, "Jesus, if you're real, help me." One prayer was enough. Jesus asked me, "Is my mercy too small for you?" I realized I had limited God's grace, putting conditions on forgiveness, judging who could be saved. But God hears whispers in the dark and runs to the broken, like the father in the prodigal son story, only faster and deeper. I wept, ashamed for judging my brother and mourning him as lost. Jesus told me I had withheld love from those who needed it most. I remembered Maggie crying alone, James standing by himself, Linda asking if God hated her, and how I had turned away or doubted. I was a wall, not a bridge. Jesus had cleaned me, but I made others feel dirty. He didn't scold me but told me to go back and tell everyone God is merciful, that it's never too late, and to love while we still can. I stood there in the light, and he spoke the truth. I had lived for approval and titles, but God wants mercy, a heart that bends, not judges. I saw moments in my life, my son feeling unloved, me refusing to forgive Linda or my ex-husband, bitterness growing inside me. Then I saw what could happen if I loved, my son seeking God, Linda finding peace before she died, James starting recovery, Maggie getting baptized. Tears filled me. I wanted to love more but had been blind. Jesus said to see now and go. I didn't want to leave the peace and beauty, but he told me this was my home, not yet. My pain had purpose, and my story had power to bring others to him. He looked deep into my soul and asked if I would go, love, and forgive. I said yes without hesitation. Then he sent me back, giving me one last glimpse, a clear river flowing through the city, trees bearing fruit every month, healing leaves, children playing, and thousands worshiping in perfect harmony. The throne shone with holiness and love beyond words, surrounded by beings singing holy, 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 and people from all walks of life, radiant and joyful. I saw faces marked by suffering but now shining with peace. One woman smiled at me, saying it was worth all her pain. This place wasn't earned, it was a gift waiting for anyone who calls on God, even in their last breath, even in darkness. Then suddenly I was falling back into pain and noise. I felt pressure on my chest, heard voices shouting, "Arena, can you hear me?" Light stabbed my eyes. I gasped, lungs burning. I was alive again, tears flowing not from pain, but loss. I had been home, but now I was back in this noisy, broken world, but with purpose. Doctors called it a miracle. Heart stopped for over 4 minutes, no brain damage, fully conscious within hours. I call it mercy. God didn't bring me back to live the same life, but to change it. Now I call my son every week, not to preach but to say I love you, I'm proud of you, I'm sorry. He came to visit recently and told me he's in therapy and reading the Bible. I didn't lecture, I just hugged him and cried. I visited Linda in the hospital, just like in the vision, and she prayed to receive Jesus before she died. I volunteer at the recovery center where James leads a group. Maggie got baptized and is 6 months sober. And me, I don't judge anymore because I've seen who's really in heaven. It's not the perfect people but the broken, the repentant, those who called out in the dark. Grace isn't measured, it overflows. I share this story not to shock but because someone needs to hear it. Maybe you feel cold or have written someone off or think it's too late. It's not. God's mercy is wider than your mistakes and His love deeper than your shame. Heaven is real. I stood there, I saw it, I felt it, and I came back with one message, live ready, not in fear but in love. Forgive quickly, love deeply, and share freely because you never know when your last breath will come. When you stand before God, He won't ask about services attended but, did you love like I loved you? So don't wait, don't judge, open your heart, make peace, and love. Because in the end, love is all that matters. You are stepping fully into the power I placed within you. Divine messages, consider contributing through a super thanks. Whether it's $10, $20, $50 or more, your generosity helps us share these angelic messages with the world. Together, we can build a community of faith, hope, and love.